Hey YouTube, this is Mark with Hoosier Life out here by the wood pile. I am going to check my buckets that I hung up yesterday. So in a prior video to this, if you'll go back, you can see where I've tapped some trees. I really don't expect much today. Today was supposed to get up into the lower 40s, maybe the mid 40s. And it's 39 degrees. I just checked. But you can kind of see it's one of those, these are rough days, you know. I know people talk about seasonal depression and things like that, but days like today where we started off with a wintry mix. We had snow turned to rain, and it's hard to get motivated. And today's a Sunday. I think it's the 2nd of February, 25. And, you know, there's not anything for me to do really. It's cold and damp. It's hard to get motivated to do something on the weekend. I know everybody on YouTube presents themselves in the best light, but hey, the reality of Hoosier life sometimes at this time of the year, it is very, very difficult to be motivated. It's just everything is gray and still brown and dead. And so we've just got to hang on for like 2 more months and everything's going to be just full of life and green. And so it's the long haul of winter right now. But let's go out and check those maple buckets, and I'll show you the way I did it. We did get rain last night, and that's one of the importance of having a lid on your buckets. You know, that rainwater gets in. Now the water's not going to hurt anything. It's just going to be more water that you got to boil off. But the reality is that many times, depending on what kind of tap you have and how your bucket is hung on the tree, it will collect water that runs down the tree, and it will actually turn an amber color, and then you got to, you know, it's just best to dump it. So that's why, another reason why I have lids on these buckets. So let's go check and see if we got anything from the last 24 hours. So this is the 12-foot tree. We're just going to call this the 12-footer. And what I mean by that, it's about 11 and a half feet around. And I only have hung one bucket on it you can see the water up here. But when I put this tap in, the sap wasn't running on this tree. And that's what I do. I just basically come along, shake the bucket. There's nothing in there. So let's move out front. Coming around the side yard here, I have 4 trees planted here. I've got this tree and then these 3 up here by the flagpole. These are all maple trees that I've planted. And I don't know, I kind of doubt that they're ever going to be big enough for me to tap. But I love having trees and figured I'd plant a few. This is my sugar maple. Let's see if we got anything in it. Got a little bit in there. Can't really hear it. There's a little bit of sap in that one. We'll just call this one the 13-footer. This is the big tree. A little bit of slush in there. Kind of see this condensation line. That's about how much sap I got in that bucket. This one wasn't running yesterday, and there's nothing in that tap, but just a tiny amount of sap in these buckets. This is the tap that was running the best. Let's see what we got. You can see the condensation here. is up a little bit. Pop the lid on this puppy. Hang on a second. All right, so I've pulled the lid, the bucket off the tree. That's your sap right there. You got to boil it down to syrup. A lot of water in there. You can hear that ice. You can actually scoop that ice out because that's the water, and you'd have less boiling. But let's see if, yeah, see, this is not really, it's running a little bit. Probably ought to put this bucket back on. So people will ask me, like, when do I empty these buckets? And depending on how the sap is running, I'll probably empty that bucket when it's maybe a half full, 3/4 of the way full. And when it's really running, that can happen in a 24-hour period easy. So I just, what I do is I come along and I check it, and then if I feel like I have enough to collect for that day, I'll dump it into some 5-gallon buckets and store it in the garage. Generally, the weather's pretty cool, and the garage stays cool enough to just store the buckets covered in the garage. If I feel like it's getting really warm, I will put them in a garage refrigerator, and I generally will try to boil when I get to about 20-30 gallons, and that can happen in a week's time easy when the sap's really running. Well, the garden has seen better days. Oh, it'll be a month or two, and then I'll be out here getting all this dead grass picked up, and then I'll till. These are spices. I till around this. Got some spearmint in there and some various spices over here. The old gnome's done. He's had better days. So we're back, a little short walk around the property there, back to the wood pile outside the shop, kind of a collect-all area here. And not a whole lot of action on the sap. Kind of disappointed that temperature didn't get up as high as it was. If the sun comes out and it's at 40 degrees, you'll see sap running, but those trees, they'll really soak up the warmth. But not on a day like today. It's just too gray and damp and cool. So maybe tomorrow it's supposed to get a little bit warmer, and then we're going to get back into some pretty typical February stuff, and then hopefully we'll see some weather improve. But yeah, that's what we do when we're out here in the Hoosier Life country, just trying to see what's happening with the maple sap. So we'll get it running here in a little bit, and I'll show you what we do with it when we get to that point where we're done collecting. So this is Mark with Hoosier Life. We'll catch you on the next one. Y'all take care. Cheers.